You're listening to the Valley Current.
So welcome in. We call this the Valley Current, but we try to extend some of the podcasts, the things that are going on all over the world. And you're quite a world traveler. Let me just start by asking you where you grew up and how you made your way to where you are today, because you've got a lot of degrees and a lot of plaques behind you, and you're going to get your PhD this year because your dissertation proposal has been accepted. And we'll talk a little bit about that. But the real topic is I want to get your views on what's happening in the world of artificial intelligence in the direction of changing the investment advisor's role, because it's clearly having artificial intelligence and machine learning are having an effect on a lot of industries, real estate. We talked about real property technology that's happening, law tech, it's happening in the legal field, it's happening in consulting, it's happening in medicine. And I think it's happening to some degree for investment advisors, and you are now an investment advisor, right?
Yeah, I was. My many years of career spans well over 18 years, with majority of it within the wealth management aspects of the financial service industry. Within it, I've done a lot of roles, the back office, frontline to investment counselor, portfolio manager roles. But particularly, as you noted, the financial technology, which plays into artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence happens to be an influential technology. But of course, the financial services sector, where you're looking at aspects like wealth management, insurance, lending, payment, it all works as an ecosystem. So we have to look at it from a segmentation of financial services segment, as well as the influential technology. I know artificial intelligence, it's mostly talked about, but there are other aspects to it, like quantum computing, you have big data, you have API, etc. And so it may use a combination of some or all of it to be able to drive any particular decision with respect to whichever solution or problem that is geared towards solving. But we've seen an incredible wave, as you did noted, in 2008, the Millennials really challenged the core of what was then call it a centralized system built in the industrial era, and now took on and then became a decentralized model. So aspects of IA, aspects of even financial technology is evolving, and to what extent no one can, or in terms of the available literature, we don't know where it's going to land at the moment. But for sure, it has had a considerable impact into the financial service sector.
I mean, it's without a doubt that millennials love their iPhones. Apple today announced the latest iPhone 14, which is going to work with satellites to allow 911 calls, even if there's no cellular signal. So some big announcements by Apple. And the price of these iPhones keeps going higher and higher, but it doesn't seem to stop people from wanting them or spending a lot of money to buy them, and then in turn expecting these devices to more or less automate as much of their life as possible, whether it's by having products or services like Uber and Lyft for transportation, or having automatic financial decision-making like these various robo investment products and services like Stash. There's a number of them that essentially try to put in the pocket of a millennial everything that he or she may want to do. And I know you've been around for a while, but you probably would say, or you should tell me what you would say. Do you think that's really going to engender the disintermediation of the professional like yourself, who's typically helping people on a face-to-face or Zoom-to-Zoom kind of basis? Do you see that happening?
Jack, thanks so much for the question. And in fact, Apple, since you started with that, have done a very wonderful job in terms of really coming out with an ecosystem and then innovating all parts of their ecosystem with new releases over the years. And kudos to them. But as you can tell or infer to other technology firms, arguably maybe conglomerate, it ranges on open and closed innovations, aspects that they leverage on to bring solutions to the consumer. But specific to IA and, big tech or big technology firm, the role of a financial advisor is one to which provides guidance to any particular individual, be it a family, institutions, and businesses, on an ongoing basis. And when you look at it, it's actually a journey, not a sprint. A journey in which, as you know, it's not quite straightforward or it's a linear, difficult to predict. Last year, we saw the Federal Reserve of USA came out to acknowledge a lot of actually, not necessarily prediction, but some of their thinking fell short of the actual event, be it into anticipation of inflation and then the ensuing crisis that we're going through, be it supply chain disruption, the ongoing war in Ukraine / Russia. But through it all, you need an advisor to be able to provide that, what I would call the emotional intelligence. Again, the fundamental question to any particular individual who consider themselves, be it you have $1 to invest or $1 million to invest, perhaps you have a day job. It's difficult to do a dual job in terms of keeping track of your own investments as well as working. In information, as you know, the microprocesses and the rate of change in terms of information, it's very, very fast. That being said, there are issues that really happens between a client and advisor or a counselor and advisor that it's difficult for a robo-advice, which is based on algorithmic processes, to be able to anticipate. And the only example I can give you, one of them will be, I remember a client was referred to me, and as we're going through my process, and my process always starts with your story. We go through, where you are, where do you want to go? Of course, in there, you're talking about finances as well, tax implication. And the question I posed was on purpose. Once I posed that question, I saw where he started sharing tears. I won't go too much into detail about that. But right there, what I did do was to push all the papers or the note-taking aside. Right there, I told him, what I care about is you, not the numbers. And then we went through what I would call some sort of, I'm not a therapist, I will never be one, but relating to the situation and then mapping out scenarios or providing ideas ultimately led to not necessarily closing the deal, but the fact that I was able to walk with him on the journey, the fact that I was able to help him to reconnect with families and so forth, to establish that trust and so forth. That is the value of an advisor. having said that, IA also play a critical role in terms of risk management. Again, helping to help facilitate the mundane tasks that an advisor will take on a day-to-day basis. If you don't have an IA or technology enablement, literally an advisor will spend 10 to 20% on client-advisor relationship, and then the rest will be dedicated to sort of administration. So again, having an IA to help optimize the services that the advisor provide equally is very important. So it's a balancing act. It's not one or the other.
Right. And I think what you said is so true, which is artificial intelligence is not going to generate creativity. That's a human function. And so between the emotional connection of emotional intelligence, as well as intellectual intelligence, IQ and EQ, there's also something you might call CQ, which is creativity intelligence or creativity quotient, which is you're building on your IQ and your EQ to deliver a creative solution. I think this is true for lawyers as well, which is very hard for folks who are big believers in artificial intelligence to accept, which is the machine is not going to put the puzzle together because the puzzle often can't be put together in any automated way. The pieces don't go together through automation. They go together through some combination of creativity, intellectual intelligence, emotional intelligence, and the trust factor that you mentioned. And I fully believe that, but there definitely are people who want to believe that the machines themselves can start to have an interactive conversation with the human being to create some sort of replica of what the human being delivers and to replace a lot of what the human being delivers. And you see this expressed in a variety of ways, including for how the medical industry or the medical profession, I mean, these are all professions. They tend to be licensed professions. They tend to require ethics and exams and standards and all sorts of regulatory functions. But people want to believe that these days you can go to Google and get an answer for almost anything. Like literally, you can say to Google, I want a portfolio that returns 5% a year with minimum risk. And somehow Google is going to parse that string and throw either a portfolio at you or a series of questions that delve deeper into, well, how old are you? How long do you expect to live? What's your budget? You know, all the questions you would ask and you would handle in creating the scenarios that you want to create for your client. So tell me more about your journey, because you were actually born in Africa, right?
Yeah, I was, my heritage is Ghana, born, lived there till about 19, and mom sponsored me, went to John Bolson School of Business, Concordia University, did finance and international business, and then followed up right to the financial service industry. Worked for 2-3 major financial institutions, and most recently I said, look, let me retool, recalibrate. So took a little bit of sabbatical leave just to finish off my PhD from that perspective. But through it all, in every part of the world that I've had opportunity to be mentored, spoken to, and, you know, even our own dear Warren Buffett, much of my learnings, you know, came from him, so to speak, of course, combining it with the academic two aspects. But it's interesting to know that at the end of the day, as you did in Fed, yes, Google may, as you know, within the PhD program, is the starting point. It's not be it and all. But the creative element and the ideas that comes or it generates, it's that which that create wealth, so to speak. I know we're in a difficult economic market condition, but for folks who have had their investments and they are seeing 10% drop or 15% and so forth.
Or 20 or 25 or 30, or take a case like Peloton. People that invested in Peloton maybe lost 80% of their wealth if on that investment. I mean, it's hard to accept, but some of these high-flying stocks deflated substantially. And I don't know how you deal when a client calls you all upset that the value of their portfolio has dropped by more than 50%. I don't know if you've had that ever happen, and how do you deal with the stress that client is expressing about a volatile market, right?
Typically, my style has always been using asset allocation, broadly diversified portfolio, depending on your risk tolerance, objective, your personal situation. That determines what asset mix that you fall into, so to speak. It doesn't mean that when there is a little bit of volatility you will not experience, you will, but you will be shielded compared to the broad-based market. Again, capital preservation and protection is at the core of what usually I would recommend to my clients. But having said that, at the end of the day, you have to take a step back and look at what investment is all about. Essentially, investment is you're investing in the growth of earning of companies. So when you do a big a blue sky dive into some of the names, are we going to rely on communication technology such as Apple to sort of connect with family and loved ones? Yes. As we are doing that, we're creating earning for them. Earlier on, you did mention the price keeps on going up. Again, one argument could be with supply chain disruption, inflation, etc. But people are willing to pay because of what a cell phone allows them to do. Of course, everybody have to wake up every day and brush their teeth. So you will need companies like Colgate, Unilever, providing that essential service. As they are producing or providing that service, they're generating revenue over time. And so it's the growth of earnings that you're investing into. Yes, a rising tide will lift up all boats. So does a receding tide at the moment. Today, the market was a bit up and it rebounded in Canada. Rate increased by 75 basis points. But having said that, if you're looking at the short term, you will miss the picture. But if you're looking at medium to long term, to which you're investing into, then that's great. Right now, as Warren Buffett will say, be greedy as others are fearful, and be fearful when others are greedy. So long as you continue, if you're a student or an investor type of picking and choosing, selecting stocks, and you're buying into stocks that really are continuing to innovate into growth and earning potentials and so forth, great. Asset mix, same thing. One of the aspects of investment too is that you have to be disciplined in terms of whichever goals and objectives you're seeking to achieve. Through that and helping to manage your emotions are key and key aspects of the process too as well. And where the job of a financial advisor or wealth manager or wealth counselor comes pronounced is the emotional aspect of things. So in today's narrative, if the market pulls back or you see your value of your portfolio drops, you're encountered with fear. In psychology, we call it loss aversion. Small drops of losses, it's highly magnify compared to even a quantum gain in terms of performance. The role of a financial advisor can help navigate through this process. When I say navigate or provide that guidance is tied to your story. So when a financial advisor is going through the discovery phase of a client, all those pertinent information is not randomly asked, but it is asked to extract information to help guide you through moments like this. So for example, if you did tell me in a year or 6 months, you're going to purchase a house, therefore you want to pack your money into some of the dividend paying stocks, I would say no, you shouldn't. The money should be in treasury bills or GIC solutions in Canada, or as we refer to, or high interest savings account, where your money is protected. When and if you need it, you have it. If you're about to retire, you don't overly extend yourself into a growth stocks. Probably where you fit is conservative type situation, whereby roughly 75% is fixed income type solution, be it short-term, medium-term, and long-term bonds, and then complementing the 25% with some type of large dividend-paying component, which is exposed sectorally. Because the human capital is in such a way that once you pass the retirement, it's tough to come back to the workforce to be able to sort of make income to help live life. Therefore, that discipline, if enforced, it helps you to ride the emotions of investment. But for sure, a typical example I will give is, even as a physician, if you're a physician, you don't administer your own medication or processes. You still have to go through a process whereby another physician will help you through your journey. And so all of us, at some point, we need a financial coach, an advisor, a counselor, etc.
Do you think that you yourself need your own financial coach separate from yourself?
Oh, yes. No one knows it all, right? No one knows it all. So it's, again, taken away from the blind spots, right? You can always do personal development. You always have to remember that we're all humans and you're correcting your emotional biases. I can file my own taxes, but I choose not to. I have my own account that does it for me. I can sort of pound through a few legal documents, but I do have my own lawyer that I rely on legal matters. So when you look at yourself, then you have areas of expertise driving your wealth plan. Typically, that's how I'm set up in terms of each and every I know enough to be able to connect you with the right person. So when it comes to insurance, yes. Have I done a bit of insurance? Yes, in terms of the know-how, the study, and so forth. But the right individual or the right aspect can be able to help you to navigate all of that aspect, taxes, and the list goes on unabated. But if you rely on AI can provide, just like it's able to diagnose a medication because you have a migraine. Perhaps that's a starting point, but it could, if you do an exploratory study, it could lead to something unrelated to migraine, right? So again, when you have an overseer, a coach that facilitate that process, it helps you to ride the highs and lows of the market better, leading to a better return. Again, I can refer back to Warren Buffett. How has he done it? Within the pandemic, when you saw a lot of Robin Hoods and CPAC and all of its form coming out, everybody thought they are superstar. And names where Warren Buffett is this or that is out of touch. I'm not saying, I'm just using him as an example. But he's done it over and over and over again. And the formula is simple. You growth in earning, the company, you do the basic stuff. And so sticking to that process really compares his return to either the market or the average investor, and you can see him ahead of the curve. And it's being able to sort of navigate the highs and lows and buy appropriate companies to the investment, to the goals that he's seeking. That's basically the driving force.
Right. There's a funny line in this TV show, series that just ended, called Better Call Saul. It's about a lawyer. It's about a lawyer who's actually a criminal. And in one of the ending episodes, he says, I wish I had a time machine. I'd like to go back to 1965 and buy a share of Berkshire Hathaway stock. In fact, I would buy as much of it as I can and just sit back for another 50, 60 years and watch the value of that $1,000 increase over that 40, 50, 60-year period and not worry at all. Just leave it there and close your eyes and let it go and let Berkshire Hathaway do its thing under the leadership of Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger, his so-called partner in business. So it's kind of an interesting story. So when you look at your career, are you making a new transition because you're about to complete your PhD? Do you want to do teaching next, or what's your next goal? Because you've definitely acquired a lot of degrees and a lot of credentials, and this is the next big one for you. What transition are you making, if any?
Well, the future is yet unfolding, but aspects to, as I did infer earlier on, the life of a counselor, wealth management, really entails all different aspects, be it learning, personal development, and so forth. What the PhD allows me to do is to bring in new insights, learning, to be able to not only help clients, but then also to help businesses. I live in Alberta, whereby we're deemed the Texas of Canada. Amazing province, amazing people or citizens we're firing from all cylinders in terms of economic growth. Currently, if I can apply for them, we need individual with skilled labor. We're short. We're diversifying the economy in the area of not only hydrogen, in the area of lithium, and the list goes on. Dow is here, Amazon is here, etc. Almost every month, and there is a new release coming out. Even this year alone, where new venture capital is about 700 billion and counting. But having said that, much of what I've been doing, it's on entrepreneurship, innovation, and my study, my dissertation is based on actually transformational leadership. Again, the subject matter is national hockey player. The whole aspect is that, when you know about your subject area and you're able to bring tools to help create a solution, at the end of the day, that is what moves society forward. I'm looking to impact lives. I'm looking to impact businesses. I'm looking to impact society as a whole. I don't know where it will land, but for sure, there are a few things, opportunities in the pipeline. But right now, for the next 3 months, the key is basically to take the dissertation to the finish line, and then the next chapter will begin.
So it probably won't be in financial services, though, right? Will you move out?
Everything I do will somehow involve numbers. It will involve innovation. It will involve aspects to helping out with society, be it for and non-for-profit social enterprise. But I'm still reviewing some opportunities, either with the province or financial service sector. I'm yet to make a decision. When I said I am yet to, of course, with the family too as well.
Right. In fact, you started your thinking about work-life balance. Isn't that how you started your original thinking?
Yes. The original thinking is work-life balance. And it came from an angle of a story I was connected with. Joe Murphy played in the NHL. Same year, I believe, was drafted as Wayne Gretzky, the GOAT, one of the greatest in national hockey.
Right.
Joe Murphy actually became homeless years ago. And at the time, the thought that occurred to me was, what went wrong?
Right.
During his playing career, a man dedicated himself to the game, to the service of the sports, and now nobody cares. Actually, a call came to a very good friend of mine by the name Wayne, to basically go and look for him to see if any help can be extended. Another thought that came to mind was the difference between the penthouse and the outer house is a very short one. Some of these stories, when I hear it, it really has a profound effect on me. The question then was, what can I do? How can I prevent another Joe Murphy from happening? When he was playing the game, was there any ongoing personal development? It doesn't necessarily have to be you're taking a course, but you're feeding the brain. You're stimulating it to whether into your passion. It's helping you to sort of manage your household better. It's helping you to relate to your kids, your wife, to the entire community versus being treated like a transactional commodity. Actually, there is a statistics within the sports industry, post-retirement, 60-70% of them are depressed. I'm not a scientist, I'm not a psychologist, but I believe that if tools are given to these individuals during and post playing career, I believe the outcome could be much better. So for me, mine is just, how can I help in terms of raising that awareness by bringing a leadership component aspects to it? And that leadership component equally is a function of innovation. And at the end of it, when we look at human being as human, it's all about unlocking the hidden potential that we all have. It could be hockey, it could be any relatable life pursuit or passion. And so if you have these tools or train of thoughts in a cohesive and disciplined, and you're actually walking the walk and being authentic, I believe you can be able to weather the storm better, be it at work or be it in life. And at the end of the day, when that optimal balance is achieved, the meaning of life become very gratifying.
Right. And you could argue in the case you gave that somewhere in this, he lost his passion, right? He lost his passion for the game. He lost his passion probably for physical exercise. He lost his passion for production of ideas or production of wealth. You could say the production of ideas is what generates the production of wealth, and wealth being broadly defined as more than just money, right? Human potential, the expansion of his human potential, because he could have become a coach or he could have become part of management because he knew a lot about the sport. Did you end up interviewing him, or what did you do?
Not yet. Hopefully, in short order, that will happen. But he inspired my dissertation. And obviously, if we look at the National Hockey League and the game itself and the player, much of the literature review was very shocking that there's little done on work-life balance associated with the players themselves. If there is a bit of work done, it's more along the coaches and the leadership side. And even what I uncovered through the literature review, in fact, I do wake up at 2 a.m., was much of it was based on deduction, quantitative. The thought is that life is very much exploratory. Every day is a new adventure. And so all of those things crystallize my thought process and fuel my passion to say, hey, at least somebody has to do something, foundationally. So I'm hoping that I can be able to contribute to knowledge and then also to the industry. Again, I'm not looking for any financial benefits from that perspective, but also to raise the awareness, to hopefully come up with a framework, a thought process that helps not only from National Hockey League, but then also that will have a spillover or domino effect on other sports. And actually, the literature review points to the fact that transformational leadership is highly sought after, but yet no one is doing anything about it, right? So to speak. So again, I'm hoping some level of, I can be able to unearth or discover some sort of a framework or idea. I don't know where it's all going to land, but I'm so far at 100 pages and still counting as the day goes on.
So did you have a personal interest in hockey, in professional hockey? Like, is that something you played as a kid or you desired to be a hockey player on ice? Because it's a really tough sport. It's a really aggressive sport. There's a lot of blood that's spilled on that ice, right?
Thanks for asking. I've never played the game, but I enjoy watching the game. But as a Canadian, you're right. Hockey is it's all we have. Also, the aspects to the game has changed considerably to much more. Of course, there is a lot of contact involved, but if you look at the times of Wayne Gretzky, the level of contact has slightly been minimized, and hopefully at some point in the future that will continue with the trend, so to speak. But hockey, it's fun to watch. It's not even sometimes the hockey itself, but the opportunity to bring people together, the opportunity to bring families together, which is what life is all about. In fact, there are, three things that sort of bring people together. Sports is one of them, food is another of them, and music. So anything to bring individuals together to learn, share emotional connection, journey, to cheer on, it's always a good thing to be associated with.
So you're in Ottawa, is that where you are? Or Toronto?
I'm in Alberta.
Alberta. And so what's the team in Alberta?
So we have two hockey teams, Oilers and Calgary Flames. So Oilers are based in Edmonton and Calgary Flames, of course, based in Calgary.
And they play against, what is it, the Toronto Blue Jays, or what's the name of the Toronto team? Isn't there a Toronto team as well?
Toronto Maple Leaf. Maple Leaf, yeah.
And isn't there also a Montreal team too?
Yeah, Montreal Canadiens and then Vancouver Canucks.
Right. So all those teams play against U.S. teams as well, right? Don't they?
Yes.
Because the league is actually the full North America, but not including any teams from Mexico, right?
No. So far, they have the women's climate, so it doesn't include. But right. There are 32 teams actually in the NHL. And globally, there are 82 nations that participate in hockey, predominantly defined by the National Hockey League. But there are ice nations too that participate in the world too as well.
Right, and it plays in the Olympics too, doesn't it? There's hockey in the Olympics too, right?
Yeah, there is hockey in there. And as you know, being a Canadian, our track record is second to none compared to USA.
Yeah. Well, I'm just kind of curious because hockey, for Canada is probably similar to what soccer is in Spain. It's just like the key sport, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So have you seen the film or the series by Apple TV called Ted Lasso? LASSO?
I started watching it, but I paused because I had a lot of work to do. But it's on cue to be watched.
Because in a way, I think indirectly you're saying what Ted Lasso and his group of coaches do for those soccer players is what you want to see some coaching do for the hockey players. Like there's an empathetic, emotionally intelligent, highly trusted connection between the group of coaches and the team players and their personal life as well as their professional life that inspires the optimization of human potential by those players on a team that otherwise was in trouble and had to dig its way out of the hole. I mean, that's the basic storyline. And this guy, Ted Lasso, is really, he knows nothing about soccer, but he knows everything about people and how to connect with people. And that's something that a machine just can't recreate. You can't put a robot in to be Ted Lasso. You can't put a robot in to be Anthony Benson either, or Jack Russo. You have a human being connecting with another human being to induce optimal performance and to provide a trusted connection that supports the journey that that person is on and guides them down the right path for that journey, whatever it is. And I think that's probably answers the question that we posed at the very beginning, which is, yeah, there's probably a lot of administration that computers and software and AI will take off the table, but it can't take off the table things that are fundamentally human functions. It's impossible to imagine a sentient computer that's going to have creativity, emotional intelligence, and world experience that enables it to help other people. And that's probably the answer to the question, as much as people want to say, well, this is a self-driving car, and we didn't think that cars could self-drive. If you ask people even 10 years ago, they would never have believed that a car could self-drive. And yet today, there are cars on the road by Tesla that are, and others, that are doing some form of self-driving in and around Silicon Valley and the rest of the United States. And it's in a test mode right now. But that's still a different example than this very, very, very hard to define role of a trusted advisor. And what does that trusted advisor do to inspire human potential? And not just financial. Financial is just a sub part of it, as you've noted. So I think that's all true. It was good talking to you. We'll do it again at some point, because once you finish your dissertation, I'm sure you're going to have some insights of what you've learned in the process from the actual field research that you're doing, right? Because you're going to interview about 50 or more different people. Is that what you're going to do?
Yeah, the goal is, if approved by the educational institution, the International School of Management, from then on, data collection begins among general managers, coaches, or coaching staff. In all, I'm looking at 2025 for now. Of course, the thing about research is that it changes, and once it changes, it informs the methodology and all aspects. But the hope is that help not only coaching staff and GM on NHL, but then replicate it across the sports and entertainment industry. One of the institutions I worked for, we had a program called Mastery Coaching. And at the time, we used a video observation of advisors to help coach them to have better, not only communication with their client, but to pick up both emotional cues to help And it became very popular, and I believe it won multiple or garnered multiple awards. So again, there's always going to be learning from one industry and a spillover to another industry, so to speak. Coaches were asked, how do you teach transformational leadership? They said, I don't know. The survey responses they gave, which was done by SCG Group, based in the US, made up of academics and athletes and professionals and so forth. So again, coaches themselves don't know, but they can talk about it, but they don't know the how aspect of it. So again, I'm hoping that we can be able, or I can be able to unearth a few ideas and thoughts and framework to help guide not only coaches or all stakeholders, but then also the players, to which is near and dear to me, that we can't treat them like transactions. There has to be a transformational process happening during their playing career and post-playing career, and that they go off to be able to sort of impact society at large.
Yeah, and I think it's a good mission, because I do agree that these are people that are admired by younger people. So having them evolve in a way where that admiration can continue and expand can only be a good thing for the evolution of man from a holistic point of view, right? It's very clear that if those people continue on the right path, I mean, look, the worst example of this, we can end with this, is I think O.J. Simpson was an inspirational football player for many young people for a very, very long portion of his life in his professional career. And then he went into a tailspin where so many negative things happened, so many bad things. I mean, that criminal trial and what followed from it. I mean, it's like he got to the pinnacle of his career, and then instead of being lifted by it, he devolved into essentially a criminal approach. Obviously, he was acquitted in the big criminal case involving the accusation that he killed his wife and his wife's boyfriend, maybe. The civil case by the families of both of those victims, he lost. So he won in the prosecution not being able to prove criminality beyond a reasonable doubt, but he lost on the lower civil standard of preponderance of the evidence. And then he engaged in other activities that landed him in jail for a period of time. Now, I think he's sort of out of the news and in retirement. He looks like he's gained a lot of weight, the last picture I saw of him. But it's a classic example of he should really continue to have been an inspiration for all of youth. And you could see this over and over and over again in situations where people who have had great fame and great success end up just falling off of a cliff and devolving in a way that just is a very sad Greek tragedy. So if transformational leadership and the things that you find can help that process of evolution, we'll all be very grateful to you, Anthony. So I want to thank you for coming on the show. You've given us a lot of ideas to think about.
Thanks so much, Jack, for having me. It's really a great pleasure to have you.
Good. See you later. Take care. Good night.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Tune in next time on The Valley Current.